Okay, we had yesterday a middle of machlekes between two contradicting brises. We had the brise that said that if you cook inside the oven, you use wood for oven, and that wood is from arla, or that wood is something which is also bad, no, also that benefit from it. What do I do with the oven? So one brise said that if it was an old oven, then we just have to wait till the oven gets cold, and then we can cook in the oven again. But if it's a new oven, then we have to get rid of the oven, because since the oven was formed by non-kosher wood, then you cannot cook in the oven again. That was one brisa. We asked a contradicting brisa that said that we had another brisa that said that any oven, even if it's a new oven, if it's a cold oven, if it's a new oven or old oven, you don't have to wait you don't have to destroy the oven. You could just wait till it gets cold, and then it's mutter. So we have two contradicting brises over here. What do we do with the old oven, with the new oven? Do we have to destroy the oven, or can we keep the oven? So we try to divide both brises, saying one goes according to Rabbi and one goes according to Rabban. We had machlekes yesterday between Rabbi and Rabban. Rabbi said that if you cook bread in the oven is aser. If you cook and the bread is aser. Mashenk and Rabban said if you cook bread in the oven, then the bread is mutter. So we try to stick these two brises together with the shit of Rabbi and Rabban. Rabbi says that the Rebbe was machmer and says if you cook bread in the oven, which is aser, the bread becomes aser, because he holds that the wood or the oven goes into the bread, and therefore just if you haven't benefit from the bread, it's like you haven't benefit from the oven. So he holds that if you have a new oven, you have to destroy it. Sheng and Rabbanan hold that just like the bread is mutter, the oven is also mutter. So we asked, we finished up yesterday, who said that Rebbe holds that the oven will be us. The only thing Rebbe's argument in oven is about if you have bread and you put it in the oven, is the bread mutter or not? Rebbe didn't speak about if you have a case of zev v'zeh greater. Rebbe didn't speak about it. And if you have a case of an oven that was formed by Isser, because the case of the oven is formed by Isser, the whole new case is called something called zev v'zeh greater. Something called if you have heter, Isser and heter together, which both cause something to happen. So the question is, do we say that it's aser, or do we say that it's mutter? So just like in our case, the oven that's caused, now even if you have an oven which was formed by a non-kosher or formed by a non-kosher wood, but if you're going to cook in this oven, you're going to cook with kosher wood, and so therefore your piece of bread is going to be mixed with kosher wood in a non-kosher oven. So maybe Rabbi in that case would say it's mutter. How do you know to say that how can you, in other words, how can you stick both prices together? So it says the Gemara finished off yesterday that goes according to Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer says that if you cook oven, if you have a leaven, if you have something to make something rise of truma and chulin, and they both fall into a piece of dough, and now the dough started rising, but each one by itself didn't have enough leaven to make the dough rise by itself. So a joint project together, it makes it rise. So Rabbi Lezer said that it's us. Why does Rabbi Lezer say it's us? Because we think the reason why Rabbi Lezer says it's us is because he holds zev v'zeh is us. That if you have two different components, one is mutter, one is us, and they're both causing something to happen, then I say that since there's Isser mixed in there, then it's us. So that's where we left off yesterday. So we're going to start today. Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, all the way at the top. That we left off yesterday, we're saying that the Belezer says that zev v'zeh greater is us if you have two leavens, two things to make something rise. One is mutter, one is us. So according to Belezer, then your dough is not us. It's mutter. Why is it mutter? Because in order to make something us, each one has to have by itself the Isser has to be able to make the thing us by itself. Says the Gemara, Abaye says that Abaye says that even according to Rabban, when do we say that if I have two Isser and I had to mix together, then it's kosher, then it's okay? Only if you found the Isser and you took it out. I mean, you found this piece of this leaven that's Isser and you took it out. If you never took it out, meaning if the Isser is still there, then also it's also, even according to Rabbi says, even according to Chacham, who say that zev v'zeh greater is mutter. In our case, zev v'zeh, in other words, the cause, if a mutter the thing, also the thing, and something should also cause something to happen together, So Rabbanan say that thing is mutter only if the Isser, you took the Isser out. That's Rabbanan Shita. According to Abai. Says the Gemara Alma, from here we see. Zev Zagerim Asif, from here we see that Zev Zagerim is Asif. Okay, so now we finish off that from here we see, continuing yesterday, Rabbi Lezer holds Zev Zagerim is Asif. So instead of saying the Brisa goes according to Rabbi, the Brisa that said that if you have an old oven, if you have a new oven that's cooked the Isser, then it's Asr, and you have to destroy the old oven. It goes according to Rabbi, it goes according to Rabbi Lezer holds Zev Zagerim is Asr, and that's why since the oven now, the walls of the oven, in other words, are Asr. And you're going to cook a piece of bread inside. You're going to, even if you're going to use kosher wood, but Zev Zagerim is Asr, since the oven is Asr and the wood is mutter, but still since the oven is Asr, so your piece of bread will now be Asr. Says the Gemara, the time of Rabbi Lezer Kabai, how do we know? Who told you that the reason of Rabbi Lezer is according to Abai that Zev Zagerim is Asr? Who said the reason why Rabbi Lezer said the oven is Asr? Or in other words, the case we had yesterday of the two pieces of chametz. One of chum, one of trum, and Rabbi said it's also. Who said the reason why he says also? Because he holds that two components make something also. The more time that Rabbi I could come with a different reason why Rabbi says it's also. Which from the acher I could say the reason why Rabbi said in that case, if you have a piece of leaven which is truma, a piece of leaven which is chametz, a piece of leaven which is chul, Rabbi said it's also, even though each one didn't have enough to be machmitz by itself. I could say instead of saying it's also because there's Isser mixed involved, I could say it's also for a whole new idea. I could say the reason why it's also is because in that case the also they could leave in that went last. And we have a cloud on Allah according to we go according to the last, meaning even if I had a mutadika thing involved to make it to make the bread rise, but since the chametz came in last, since the Isser came in last, so we go after the last. In other words, so if that's the reason Rabbi Lezer, we have no proof that Rabbi Lezer to answer our contradiction in our brisa that we had yesterday. Yeah, we go after the last. And there's no difference if I took out the Isser. And there's no difference that if I didn't take out the Isser, it doesn't matter if the Isser is there, it's not there. As far as Rabbi Lezer, it's nothing got to do with since there's Isser involved, therefore the thing is us. As far as Rabbi Lezer, is a whole new thing. And the reason why it's us is because the Isser came in last. Even according to Rabbi Lezer, if they'll fall in exactly the same time, Rabbi Lezer will also agree that it's mutter. And therefore, I can't bring a proof from Rabbi Lezer to our brisa. Just to recap, I'm trying to answer, who does the brisa that says that if you have a new oven, you have to destroy, who does that go according to? It's not Rabbi, because Rabbi doesn't hold to that. It's not Abanon, because Abanon for sure don't hold to that. So we're trying to say to Rabbi Lezer, but we'll just say the proof we try to bring from Lezer isn't a good proof, because the reasoning of Lezer is over there is by the case of two pieces of dough together, a piece of dough that was risen through Isser and Heta isn't because we could say isn't because there's Isser involved. It's because the Isser came in last. Says more further, out of Lezer, that's a shade. We're going to find a new proof from Lezer. Now, and it says in the Brisa, not telling him, no, it's in asunim bano. If you take of wood of our shaded tree, and we know there's a wood called our shaded tree. It's a tree that's used for Avodah. If I chop off some branches, so those branches are now also bano. What if I take those branches, if I heat up oven with them? So chadash yutat, if it's a new oven, then I destroy it, the oven. Yashan yutzan. If it's old oven, meaning the oven was already formed and the walls are already strong, so then I don't have to destroy the oven. I could just wait till the oven gets cold and then start cooking. After Beis HaPash, Rabbi Lezer continues and says that if you bake bread inside the oven, the bread is also no. What if the bread that you cook got mixed up with another piece of bread? And that piece of bread, both pieces got mixed up with another piece of bread, meaning you don't know where is this the asadika bread now. So the Tanakama says, no, they are all asbano, meaning you cannot use any of the pieces of bread. Lezer says, take the worth of the first piece of bread to the Yamam Malach, and take the money and get rid of the money. And that's it. So we see from here that Rabbi Lezer says we see from here that Rabbi Eliezer says that if a piece of bread just finished that one more line. Tanakama told him, "Ain't pidyon avodah." Why are you saying to take the worth of the bread to the Yamamelach, not to have benefit from it? You can't redeem avodah zarah. It doesn't help if you have a suffix or by hektish, right? Regarding something, let's have a suffix. If you have a kosher animal mixed in a holy animal, hektish animal mixed into any other things. There's a question: which one is what? What can I do? I could redeem the kosher animal, the holy animal. I can redeem it. I could pay the sum of the holy animal, so I don't have any benefit from it now. And then I can use all the animals. But by avodah zarah, you can't do that. So why is Rabbi Eliezer saying to take the worth of the piece of bread and bury in the Yamamel? Okay, so that's a question on Rabbi Eliezer. We're not going to get into that now because the Gemara is not going to get into that. But from here we see from here that Rabbi Eliezer holds that if he doesn't redeem this piece of bread, all the pieces of bread become asur. Why do all the pieces of bread become asur? Because it was made in the oven, which was strengthened. The walls were strengthened, or the oven was introduced with avodah zarah. So even though the piece of bread was cooked with kosher wood, but since it was cooked in non-kosher oven, so now the piece of bread is avodah zarah dika bread. And here we have a clear marker according to Rabbi Eliezer that if you have zev zegredim is asur. That zev zegredim meaning having heter and isser causing a certain item to form is asur according to Rabbi Eliezer. Says the Gemara, how can you bring a proof from Rabbi Eliezer from that brisa from what we just said now? Why bring a proof from maybe Rabbi Eliezer? The reason why he said over there that the piece of bread is asur is avodah zarah is not avodah zarah. The Cham Yisur avodah zarah is very stringent din. But b'shar yisurim shabbatera other yisurim regarding other yisurim. Mishamas who said that regarding other yisurim, Rabbi Eliezer says that zev again is asur. Says the Gemara. So Allah imkain. And we have to say that other yisurim it's asur. If not, aman tanmai. We're gonna have a contradiction. The prices we had yesterday. And the Gemara did research and they found out how Tanya behead. We said that we found a clear brisa that Rabbi Eliezer says v'chein hoy Rabbi Eliezer Eiser. Rabbi Eliezer would say zev zegredim is asur b'chal yisurim shabbatera by all other yisurim shabbatera. The Gemara finishes the sugya and basically the Maskana Gemara is that the brisa goes according to Rabbi Eliezer. So the brisa that says just to recap, we have the contradicting brises. One brisa said if you have a new oven, you have to destroy it. One brisa said if you have a new oven, you don't have to destroy it. Who's the bride? They're contradicting each other. So we say one brisa goes according to Rabbanan, and the second brisa said that a new oven you have to destroy goes according to Rabbi Eliezer. Why do you have to destroy the oven? Because according to Rabbi Eliezer, since this oven now becomes a piece of isser, since it was cooked, it was formed by non-kosher wood, and even if you're going to cook a piece of bread with kosher wood inside this oven, it's an isser and it had to cause some carbon. According to Rabbi Eliezer, that is us. So now we're continuing on speaking about this subject of zev zegredim. Amar Abai says like this: Im tirtzo leima zev zegredim asur. If you're going to say that, like we just said, now that the brisa holds that zev zegredim is asur, so Rabbi hainu Rabbi Eliezer. So we'll come out from here that the shita of Rabbi is the same as Rabbi Eliezer. We're going to explain in a second. Just finish up. The im tirtzo leima, and if you're going to tell me zev zegredim mutter, if you're going to tell me zev zegredim is mutter, v'ha hacha mishum diyashvach etzim bepaso. And the reason why over here it's asur is because yes, there's the bread got benefit from the wood. Hani karis or keses or sleiches asiri. So according to Rabbi, also if you would make if you would heat up cups or make a cup and a earthenware plate in an oven, it also be asur. So those are the links. We just recap. We just made now a maskana that zev that Rabbi Eliezer holds zev zegredim is asur, meaning that isser and heter that cause something to happen is asur. That's one rule. We had a machlekes yesterday between Rabbi and Rabbanan that if I cook a piece of bread, a new concept, if I cook a piece of bread in a asur deka oven, does the bread now become asur or not? Chacham said it doesn't become asur because the bread was cooked in non-kosher in a non-kosher oven or non-kosher wood, but the bread itself was kosher. Rabbi says no. We say yesh rach etzim bepas. Just since the wood that was cooked to make the bread, used to make the bread was asur, the wood now goes into the bread and the bread becomes asur. So, according to that, is there any nafkamina? Even though they have two different reasoning, Rabbi Eliezer has one reasoning for asuring the bread, if you're going to cook bread in non-kosher oven, and And Rabbi has a different reasoning if you're going to cook bread in a non-kosher oven. But at the end of the day, there's no difference between them. Everyone would agree that the bread is awesome. Rabbi Lazar will say the bread is also why? Because in this, the thing that causes bread to cook is a asadika oven and a mutadika wood or whatever, which that doesn't work according to Rabbi Lazar. And Rabbi will say it's also not because the bread, not because the bread was cooked by zev zagerim, but because the asadika wood goes into the bread. So keep please. So when do they ever argue? In other words, is there a difference between Rabbi and Rabban? Keep please. When do they argue? But Tanuk, they don't argue regarding a new oven. The only machlek is regarding a new oven. If you're going to tell me zev zagerim is also, which is Rabbi Lazar's opinions, then also a new oven would be also. Why? Because a new oven, according to Rabbi, even though according to Rabbi Lazar, it's also the cooking the oven because you're having benefit from the oven, which is also. Meaning, if you form the oven with non-kosher wood, so now the oven is awesome. According to the blazer, you can have a cooking in the oven. But the oven is zev mutter. According to Rabbi, that says zev is mutter. Shari in this case be mutter. Why? Because you're having benefit. The benefit's not coming from. The benefit is not coming from the oven. Benefit is coming from the wood. In other words, if you're going to take wood, you're going to have an oven which is awesome, and you're going to use kosher wood. Rabbi's only problem was that the wood is going into the bread. We don't care if the oven goes into the bread. The wood is going into the bread. So if you have kosher wood, so according to Rabbi, it'll be asur, or be mutter. According to Belazar, it'll be asur. Because the Belazar holds, I don't care if I have a kosher wood. It's not a kosher oven. According to Rabbi, mutter. Saying these halachas come up a lot of times in those kashas. And nowadays, right? You have, let's say, you have not so much nowadays, but you have I don't know, you have an oven and you use and the wood for the oven is or the gas for the oven is let's say is safe for gas, let's say, whatever it is. So so do I say that since the gas is safe, so therefore the bread is safe, or do I say no, it's a kosher oven? So according to Rabbi, we only care about the gas, we only care about the wood. If the wood is asur, so then it goes into the piece of bread, and now the piece of bread becomes asur. Shaking according to Belazar, we don't care about the wood, we care about the oven. Is the oven a kosher oven? If the oven is a kosher oven, so according to Rabbi Lazar, it will be asur because there's non-kosher gas. But if the oven is the other way, I'm sorry, if you have a non-kosher oven and kosher gas, according to Rabbi, it'll be mutter. According to Rabbi Lazar, it'll be asur because you have a non-kosher oven. Okay. Some people say, even the people who say, even Rabbi Lazar who says, even Rabbi who says, again is mutter, that what? If you have a non-kosher oven and kosher wood, that's mutter. So they would say gdeira asura. They would say that if you have a new oven would be asur. Why? Because the kibla bishula mekamed nitin etzemet teira. And if you have it's a very interesting case. If you have a good case again is what I mentioned before, but the Gemara says a better case that you have a non-kosher pot in a kosher oven. Okay, so now if you have a non-kosher pot, so even if and kosher food, even if the oven is kosher, even if the oven is kosher, so there's two things causing this. Let's say I have a kosher oven, non-kosher pot, and kosher meat. I stick the meat in non-kosher pot, and then the oven is cooking the meat. So there's two things causing the meat to cook. Number one, the pot, and number two, the oven. The oven is kosher. Pot is asur. So if I say zev zagerim is mutter is asur, so obviously the piece of meat will be asur. If I say zev zagerim is mutter, so in this case, my piece of meat should be mutter, even though it was cooked in a non-kosher pot, because it was cooked by a kosher oven. So that's it. This shita says no. In this case, everyone agreed that it's asur. Why? Because the pot. When did I put the pot in the oven? What came first? I had a piece of meat. I put it inside the pot. Not a piece of meat. Let's say food or vegetables. I'm making a vegetable soup. I put the vegetables inside the pot. So I had benefit. In other words, I had benefit from this pot before it goes into the oven. Because obviously I put the food inside the pot before the pot goes in the oven. So in other words, zev zagerim only happens at exactly the same time. But if it's two different times, if I first had benefit from the pot, and that benefit made the food asur, because if I store them in a non-kosher pot, then if I'm going to stick that pot in a kosher oven, it doesn't help because the kosher oven comes after I stored in a non-kosher pot. But if I do it somehow exactly the same time, then it'll be mutter. Okay, now we're finishing Sugya. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yosef said the name. Yosef said the name of Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel. Tanur sheisiku b'klipi oil. If you have an oven that was the one making maskan on the whole Sugya. Tana sheisiku b'klipi oil. If you have an oven which was heated up by peels of an arla tree, which is also to have benefit from. Or was heated up by sticks of a kilaim tree, which is also about now. So what's it? Then chadash, if it's a new oven, yutatz, I have to destroy it. Yashan, if it's old oven, yutzam, I should make it cold. Off a base hapas. What if I cook bread inside this oven? Rabbi Eimen hapas mutas. Rabbi says the pas is aser, is muter. Chacham Eimen hapas aser. Chacham say the pas is aser. We the breast we just said now is a big problem for us. We were learning until now that Rabbi says if you cook bread in the oven, the bread becomes aser. We just said in this brayso, Rabbi Eimen hapas muteris. The bread is muter. How does that fit with all the brayso we learned in Tona? So the first answer is obviously asking Madavatani. We learned the other way around that Rabbi says the bread is aser. So the first answer is Shmuel. Shmuel says, no, just switch around. It's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed the Brisa is supposed to say that Rabbi says the pas is aser, and Rabbanan say the pas is muter, and that would fit with all our Brisas. By saying another way of explaining it is Shmuel. In general, Shmuel holds halacha kerebi mechavei roi v'lei mechavei roi. Yeah, we have different rules in halacha who we pass on. We have machlekes Rabbi Kiva and Shmuel. So we pass in like a Rabbi Kiva. If you have machlekes b'sham Mesila, we pass in according to Besila. What if you have machlekes between Rabbi and Rabbi Lezer? So Shmuel says halacha kerebi mechavei roi. If Rabbi argues with one of his friends, the halacha is like Rabbi. But if Rabbi is arguing with Chacham, with a whole bunch of his friends, so that the halacha is not like Rabbi, the halacha is like Chacham. So that's the general case. But in our case, Shmuel holds in the case of bread that was cooked in a non-kosher oven, Rabbi holds that Shmuel holds that the halacha is like Rabbi. This is a specific case that we pass in like Rabbi, even though he argues with Chacham, even though Chacham said the bread is mutter. But in our case, we pass in that like Rabbi that the bread is awesome. And since this is a one-off case, the Saba, so Shmuel says, Shmuel says, well, let's change it around. We'll change around the Brisa and say that Rabbi said the pas is mutter, and Chacham said the pas is awesome. We want the bread to be awesome, right? But if someone's going to open it, we want the bread to be aser because the halacha is like Rabbi. But not everyone knows the halacha is like Rabbi in this case. So we changed around the brayso that if someone's now going to open a brayso, what's he going to see? He's going to see Rabbi says the pas is mutter, and Chacham says the pas is aser. And he knows that the halacha is usually like Chacham, so therefore he's going to do like Chacham. So we changed around the opinions. So when people open the brayso and they don't know that in this case the halacha is like Rabbi, so they will do like Chacham, and so that we changed around Chacham's opinion. Okay. One more small piece. Says the Gemara. In case we had before. If you cook bread on top of coals, and these coals are coals which come from Isser. Everyone agrees that the bread is mutter. Why? One opinion says which type of coals, even if they're aser, the bread will be mutter. It's only by if the coals are very weak. Because since the coals are very weak, so by the time you put the bread on it, so the coals already lost their fire, and therefore the coals are not aser banani. But if you have piping hot coals, that's something that's one opinion. Another opinion says, even if you're going to barbecue your bread on piping hot coals, which come and these coals are aser, the bread is going to be mutter. Says the Gemara, according to the opinion that says that if you have fiery coals, it's aser. That makes sense. From the because the fire of the coals goes into the bread, and just like the coals are aser, so the bread is aser. But if you're going to tell me that even boiling hot coals are mutter, which type of bread will ever be aser according to Rabbi? According to Rabbi, if you stick boiling hot bread. If you stick bread on boiling hot, piping hot, also they could cause it. It's still mutter. So when it's awesome. So Amara Papa, Rabbi only said that the bread becomes asif by fire, meaning have fire goes into also the fire, then the fire goes into the bread. But when it comes to coals isn't a fire. Coals is only smoke, or coals is only steam. So therefore, the steam is not directly coming from the actual coals. Therefore, according to Rabbi, in this case, it would be mutter. Okay, we're gonna stop over here. All the bottom of the Chav Zayin, Amud Beis. Have a good night.